Some Chads were destined to command legions, leading great armies across continents, conquering foreign lands and invaders alike. Some Chads are known for the philosophies that shape the very foundation of our societies. Some Chads are known for freeing thousands of others and helping to create equality for all. Then, some Chads just want a fried chicken. In today's video, we will be delving into the exciting, tumultuous life of Harland David Sanders, or as many of you know as Colonel Sanders. Born on September 9th, 1890 in Henryville, Indiana, the Colonel entered this world at the tail end of the Wild West. Harland was introduced to cooking at a very young age when his dad died when he was only 6 years old. So starting his life off like many fatherless youths, he dropped out of school and left the nest to work on a farm. However, I assume that didn't work out for a young colonel at the time, and at only 16 years old, he lied about his age to join the military, only to be discharged a year later. From many of the accounts I've read on Colonel Sanders, he seems to have always been filled with piss and vinegar, and that's pretty consistent as his life story goes on. Alright, so now he's a railway worker. He just is, or was, until he got fired for getting into a fight with a co-worker. The Colonel may have had the temper of a mating bull shark, but he wasn't dumb, and while he worked for the railroad, he also studied law. That would have worked out had he not gotten into another fight in the courtroom with his own client, thus ruining any chances of him having a legal career. You, starting to see a trend here now, viewers? So after getting into enough fights to be considered an underground fight club combatant, he moved back with his mama and got a job selling life insurance, which I guess makes sense if he's going to keep kicking people's asses. The least he could do is give back to the community. Well, he had planned to sell life insurance, at least until he got fired for insubordination. Frankly, I'm just surprised it wasn't aggravated assault, but it didn't matter how much life pissed in Harland's cornflakes, because he was determined to whip out his Lieutenant J. Dangle and piss back in the face of life and say, you. Harland also held other jobs, like being a steam engine stoker, filling station operator, etc., getting fired for one reason or another. In 1920, at age 30, he started his own ferry boat company, to which he said screw this and tried to sell his business to start another business making shitty lamps, only to realize another company already did that, and their lamps are better. So once again, Harland is staring at his bowl of cornflakes in anger, seething from how much metaphorical piss can exist in one man's cereal. So now, at the youthful age of 40, he began selling a recipe for chicken he came up with during the Great Depression. He operated from a Shell service station and sold his special chicken in North Corbin, Kentucky. It was during this time Colonel Sanders was involved in a shootout with a competitor by the name of Matt Stewart, whom had invoked the wrath of the Colonel by painting over a traffic sign that led to the Colonel's station. During the shootout, Stewart hit and killed a Shell employee working with Sanders at the time and was convicted of murder, thus eliminating the Colonel's competition. Soon after, he got commissioned as a Kentucky Colonel, which is basically the highest title of honor in Kentucky for some reason. I guess everyone was just impressed he didn't get shot trying to fry some chicken. Jokes aside, after officially becoming the Colonel, his popularity amongst the plebs had grown, and in 1939, a food critic going by the name of Duncan Hines visited his restaurant, and assuming the Colonel didn't have a gun to his head when he wrote this review, he stated, "A very good place to stop en route to Cumberland Falls and the Great Smokies. Continuous 24-hour service, sizzling steaks, fried chicken, country ham, hot biscuits, etc., etc., blah, blah, blah." In July of 1939, the Colonel bought a motel in Asheville, North Carolina for some reason. I don't know why. But then it got destroyed in a fire, and then he rebuilt it with a big-ass restaurant attached to it. And in 1940, at age 50, he had finalized his special recipe for fried chicken. He preferred a pressure fryer because it was faster than pan frying. And if you know fat, hungry Americans, faster is always better no matter the cuts or costs. Well, as the US entered World War II, the country started rationing its gas. And you might be asking yourself, well, Bandana Man, why didn't they just fart in jars to save their gas? And to that, I simply say, if only. But because of all the gas rationing in the country, he was forced to close his Asheville motel and went to go work as a supervisor doing if I know because I couldn't find a source. But he supervised something, damn it. Apparently, he also had a mistress that he left as manager of his North Corbin restaurant. He then later sold his Asheville business because, remember, no gas. Fun fact, before his recipe got approved, it was rejected about 1,009 times, and then some of you guys quit before the first level of Super Mario. That's persistence for you. So now, it's about 1952, and the Colonel has franchised his secret recipe, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and in the first year alone, restaurant sales more than tripled, with most of the money coming from his fried chicken. So yeah, now he's finding a lot more success finally. He also believed his old North Corbin restaurant would last forever. But it didn't. At 65, he sold it after a new interstate reduced customer traffic, which I'm surprised he didn't get into a shootout with the city planners by that point. So yeah, sold. So now, with only his savings and his social security checks coming in, he needed to make that bread if he wanted his old ass to retire. So he made bread, but mostly fried chicken. So he basically started traveling the US looking for good sites for restaurants to expand his fried greasy empire. Well, after closing his North Corbin restaurant, he and his mistress opened a new restaurant and company headquarters in Shelbyville in 1959. So now, more franchisees began to visit Harland because he stayed busy, and those visits were a pain in the dick. So he pulled the company strings while his mistress mixed and sent out various spices to all the different restaurants. Well, his franchise exploded in popularity, expanding all over the US and even opening restaurants in Canada, UK, Australia, Mexico, and Jamaica by the 1960s. In 1962, Sanders got a patent for his method of frying chicken, and in 1963, trademarked the sexually ambiguous term we all love today, Franger-licking good. After expanding to more than 600 locations, the Colonel was getting up there in age, and I imagine it's hard to run that many restaurants when you can't even wipe your own ass. So in 1964, he sold his magnum opus at 73 years old. He sold his franchise for $2 million, equivalent to $20.3 million today, to a 29-year-old John Y. Brown, a young lawyer and future governor of Kentucky, and to some other guy named Jack. However, the Colonel wasn't ready to relinquish his Canadian locations, so they weren't included in the deal. So, in 1965, the Colonel moved to Mississauga, Ontario, to governate his Canadian restaurants and continued to make bank from the franchise and just to make appearances, because nothing says good advertising like an unstable senior citizen ready to fight with pistols at dawn at a moment's notice, or he might just strangle you with his own shoelaces. So it was there in Canada he bought a bungalow and lived there from 1965 to 1980 when he died. Well, during that time period, he remained KFC's poster bunny and apparently traveled 200,000 miles a year, filming commercials and having TV appearances. In my humble opinion, he should have been cast in some action movie, with him as the lead role. Think about it. Boondock Sanders, Footloose, Up Your Ass, or Superman, played by Harland Sanders, or Jaws, of the Colonel. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. Apparently, paired with his anger, he had a wide plethora of curse words in his arsenal, all of which he openly spoke. This made some of those who respected his culinary expertise to fear him when the New Yorker described his anger by the force and variety of his swearing, and I just thought that was funny. So now, it's 1979, and unbeknownst to the Colonel, the company made a change to the gravy because they're a bunch of lazy, soulless shitheads that care more about money than a good product, and the good old Colonel decided to pay a surprise visit to various restaurants. He was disappointed, to say the least, like how a father is disappointed to find out his son plays board games with figurines and likes to roleplay. He then denounced the food to the owner of that location and called the food goddamn slop and pushed it onto the floor like an angry toddler not wanting to eat their vegetables. Later, Sanders and his wife/mistress, I'm not sure if they married each other by this point or not, opened a restaurant in Shelbyville called Claudia Sanders, after his mistress/wife/thing. Extra points for originality. He then continued to sell KFC-styled chicken and got sued by one of the franchisees, so he had to sell his restaurant in a settlement to that person. Then they made another stupid restaurant called Claudia Sanders' Dinner House, and it's the only non-KFC restaurant that sells a version of the KFC recipe. For the rest of his days, the Colonel remained outspoken against the monster he had created called KFC, even calling the gravy horrible, and said it tasted like wallpaper paste, and called the recipe a dough ball stuck on some chicken. In 1980, he was diagnosed with acute leukemia and died, specifically from pneumonia, and at the ripe age of 90. I guess it's true what they say. assholes live longer. Anyway, that's been Bandana Man coming at you with another video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry it took so fucking long, and I plan to have another video for you guys soon. Ish. Later, peeps. Bandana Man. Out.
Yeah, can't fool flexing cause they know I got the sauce. Got the presence on me, I can't ever take it off. That's why I came country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Yeah, they can't get like me, rocking boots and white tee. Designer on my cuff link, something like a movie. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Country boy stepping, yeah, I'm country boy stepping. Artist out the ranch, I just told you that I'm bout it. I might take offense if you tell me that you doubt it. That's just what it is, yeah, I'm known to make it rowdy. Then I'm for the fit, and I drive a wide body. Who you know, but like this, nobody. Can't go slow, I gotta hit that body. I'm the top, for the top, I can't never take a break. Yeah, I'm hot, and you not, that's why all my records bang.